In this video, we are going to take a look at synchronizing Gate Nouveau to an external clock source. So as you probably guessed, there is a clock jack right here. This is a clock input, and this is where you would patch your clock signal to. Now, there are a couple of different configurations, but let me start out by showing you the easiest one. So out of the box, Gate Nouveau expects a sync input here on the clock jack. If you are using voltage modular in standalone mode, you'll probably want to grab this one here. It's called sync generator, and you just want to patch sync out to this clock in. Now you can see down here behind the cable it says 120 BPM, and if we were to adjust this, then it would respond accordingly. So you can see that Gate Nouveau has now synchronized to the BPM being set by this clock. Now that's the easy mode. Gate Nouveau is configurable, and you can tell it that you want to operate in a different mode. So down here on the bottom left, you can see there's an option here called config, which we have not talked about much. We'll be getting into this more as time goes on, but I'm going to click over to the right here, and you can see that the fourth value over is called external PPQN. If you're not familiar, PPQN stands for pulses per quarter note. And this is a very common unit that you'll see in audio technology to represent how a clock is being transmitted. Now, depending on what you're doing elsewhere, you might want to have a different PPQN. So you can see here that the default is set to sync, which is a special 96 PPQN value in voltage modular. This, by the way, is how sync is different than clock. However, you might have some configuration where you have some other clock source in your patch. So for the sake of demonstration here, I'm going to use sync generator, and I'm going to pass it here into sync divider. So I'm going to take the sync out, patch it to sync in, and the clock out here to Gate Nouveau. Now, one of the things you might notice is that the BPM stabilized out here at a very weird number. You can see it says 6.8 BPM, which is probably not what we intend. As you can see here on the sync generator, here I'll edit this value. We'll set this to 120 BPM, and this is kind of confusing. Why is this doing this? Well, the way that this works is this clock jack will interpret the incoming pulses based on the PPQN here. And so if the default is 96, it's thinking that we're actually patching it a very slow clock. There are other values here. So the least that we can do is a 16th note, and so that is equivalent, by the way, to this default on the sync divider. So you can see here the sync divider has 1/16, and that matches up here to this PPQN. And sure enough, if you look here, you can see that the BPM has matched the rate that we're passing in. There are other values here. So you can see the next one is the 32nd note, which I can adjust accordingly. There's also 16 PPQN, which doesn't have a whole lot of use. 24 PPQN, which you're going to find if you are importing a MIDI source. And then, of course, here we are back to 96. One last thing I want to mention here, and this is a little bit more of a technical note. Now, something a couple of people have asked me so far is, can I use an external clock to slow down the track? And the answer is no. Gate Nouveau works slightly different than most of the other sequencers in voltage modular. A lot of the other sequencers, what they do is as soon as they get a tick on the clock input, they will then advance the sequence. What Gate Nouveau is actually doing is it's only using the clock jack to determine what the BPM is. And once it has the BPM, it will either divide or multiply it. So just a reminder here, you recall that in one of the previous videos I showed you one of the values here is track division. And we can change this track division. We can slow it way down. So you can see here I'm using a track division of a half note, even though I'm passing in a clock that is running at 96 pulses for every quarter note. And this is a key concept here, which is the external clock rate that you patch into Gate Nouveau is independent of the track division. You can patch in any different clock rate and you'll still get a consistent division on the track. Let me set that up actually just to show you. So here you can see that I have added the sync divider, and I've patched the sync out on the sync generator to both the divider and to Gate Nouveau. And notice here the rate that these steps are moving at. Now, if I change this, so I'm going to take out the clock signal and I'm going to patch in a 16th note, and I'm going to change this value here to be a 16th note, you can see that despite us patching in a much slower signal, in fact, the division of the track is running at the same. And likewise, if I was to increase this to a 30-second note, and we were to set the PPQ in to be a 30-second note, you can see it is consistently running at the same rate. So this is a key idea, which is it doesn't matter what speed of clock you patch in. The only thing Gate Nouveau is paying to is the BPM. It takes care of dividing and multiplying on the track based on how the track division is set.